This here is another viewer's dirty gaming PC, and I think dirty might be an understatement. So this rig is boasting actually fairly modern hardware, but housed inside of an older case, and I can tell that it hasn't been cleaned in at least a few years. We've got dust and grime in every crack and crevice I can find in this thing. Anywhere from below the PCI slot covers to in front of the basement, in the hard drive cage area. This is, again, an older chassis from NZXT, so it has certain features that you don't see too much of anymore in mid-towers. That is a very grimy space in this case. And then the front panel especially, the dust filter is absolutely caked, as are the fans behind you. You can tell the dust filter did its job for at least a little while, and then it was just overrun by dust because it hadn't been cleaned in so long that the fans behind it also became victims. And this is why we try to remind folks to frequently clean their systems, lest something like this happen here, where the dust builds up over such a long amount of time that it becomes grimy and gooey, and air compressor, even an industrial one, is not going to be enough. This will require a full disassembly, which you will see in this video. If I'm being honest, this is like therapy for me. I really enjoy seeing these transformations play out. This is one of the best things, in my opinion, about PCDC. We can not only make an impact for the individual who owns the rig in question, but we also get a sense of satisfaction in seeing these rigs revitalized for hopefully several more years. And that goes without saying, if you or someone you know has a dirty system, something like this or worse, that you'd like to see deep cleaned on the channel for free, be sure to submit a form linked in this video's description. It's gonna be a fun one. I hope you'll stay with me. If you're planning your next PC build, then consider checking out our sponsor, VIP SCD Key. Their Windows 10 and 11 OEM keys sell for a fraction of retail and will unlock the full potential of your OS. They'll also remove those pesky activation watermarks. Click the links below to get started today, and be sure to use our special offer code SKGS for a sweet discount on a variety of options, including Windows 10 and 11, Pro and Home, and more. I am very excited to see what this is gonna look like when it's all said and done. We do have one pretty major aesthetic upgrade for this rig coming, but I'm going to deep clean everything in this video and reassemble it as is first, so that you have like a true comparison, a true before and after. That's something we haven't done in previous seasons, so rest assured you will see this entire rig hopefully deep cleaned by the end of this one, and then we will throw the upgrade in to really round things out. We've talked with the owner ahead of time. He's super pumped for it. This is an older case, so I think you see where this one's headed. Also, if you're curious about specifications, I'll quickly have this on screen here, so if you want to pause and look through that, feel free. Like I said, most of the stuff is relatively modern, save the case and maybe a few hard disk drives. Now it's time to get this thing in the garage for the deep cleaning. Come along for the ride. Boy, oh boy, I am not sure what I was expecting going into this, but I did not think it would take this long to clean. About 3 days in total. I spent probably about 6 to 8 hours just on the case, which you'll see involves several modular bits. It does make cleaning easier, but also increases the amount of work. You can see how much dust got caked up on these fans with the front panel fully removed. We're also going to take care of these hard disk drive trays as well as rubber grommets. Of course, the fans themselves need to come out, and you'll see several other smaller bits, including LED strips, etc., that are all going to be removed. And just look at how disgusting this case is. Now with everything removed, we get a very good idea of just how much dust and grime has caked up over the years in this thing. Even the dust filter is pretty bad. I'm not sure if I'm actually gonna be able to fully clean this, given my past experiences with older dust filters like these. Now it's time to take this thing outside and give her a proper bath. Back again to the complexities of this case, you can see just how many screws hold in the mesh filter behind the plastic guards, both for the front panel and the top panel in this chassis. I believe this is an older NCXT Phantom case, if I recall. I'll put it on screen when I figure out exactly what it is. You can see how much dust was trapped above these filters, so it was important that we did disassemble this further, and most of this should come off with just a quick bath. There were some imperfections that were not going to come out with isopropyl alcohol or water alone. In fact, there's not much I can really do here given the deepness of some of these scratches and the heavy staining that I think has actually cooked itself into the paint, because no matter what I did, some of these would not come out. Nonetheless, once we're finished cleaning the case, we'll be sure to dry it off. We don't want water spots, so I'm going to use a towel followed by an electric duster to make sure that water is out of those smaller cracks and crevices. And now we move on to the platform. We're going to disassemble this as far as it will go, starting with the removal of the CPU, cooler mounting, and the DRAM. This is not as dirty as other parts of the case, I will admit, so we'll focus on removing all of the old thermal paste here and just getting this board looking as close to brand new as possible. For the harder to reach places around this board, I used nylon brushes. These come in very handy where my electric duster can't, so especially around rear I/O, the PCIe slots, etc. We're gonna get all of this loose dust agitated, and then it'll quickly blow away with our duster. These PCIe slot covers were especially gross. I didn't realize this earlier on. With these rubber grommets, I decided to use copious amounts of isopropyl alcohol. See, on a microscopic level, rubber surfaces are not very smooth, so a lot of dust will get trapped inside all the kind of like micro chasms and canyons in these surfaces. Using a lot of IPA and then agitating heavily with nylon brushes did the trick. If you're wondering how I clean these smoother cables, I just douse a paper towel in isopropyl alcohol and gently pull each through the towel. That will give you a much cleaner surface like this one here. And now for the dreaded fan cleanings. These are probably the most disgusting components in this build. It's pretty caked up, especially on the insides of each fan blade. You can see just how thick this dust is. As for my cleaning methods here, fairly self-explanatory. Again, just a lot of isopropyl alcohol and surface agitating before using our electric duster to get rid of any loose dust remaining. I'm gonna show you this entire step here. So I'm gonna clean the entire fan, and I'm gonna speed this clip up 100 times to show you how much work actually goes into a single fan's cleaning. Now, I'm not going to hide anything. Obviously, we do see some imperfections in the undersides of these fan blades just by the way that they've been molded or casted. They're not perfectly smooth. The frames as well are not perfectly smooth, so they tend to want to trap a lot of that dust. But I'd say this is a massive transformation from where we started. Now we just need to rinse and repeat for the other fans. Shifting our attention then to this graphics card. Boy, oh boy, this one's pretty rough. It's not as rough as the fans, but it is going to require, again, a full disassembly. I'll let the video take it from here. I will say this graphics card was a bit more difficult to disassemble than I'm used to, but the results are very satisfactory. Moving on to the AIO, you can tell this was added much later in this build's life. It wasn't very dirty, just some surface level dust, so a quick dusting will do. For the power supply, keeping things assembled here, we're not going to take this apart for reasons I've discussed in previous videos, just a lot of heavy dusting through both sides of the unit, and then of course focusing on these cables, where a lot of dust, especially in this ribbon design, likes to get trapped in between individual wires. Some light IPA scrubbing to round things out. And focusing on the finer details with a nylon brush, places that are especially difficult to get to otherwise. With everything now clean, we can focus on reassembling this case. Again, many parts to sift through. And we can take care of many of the smaller parts of this platform in preparation for the final assembly. This took a bit longer than I expected, and you know, I'll be honest with you, there's actually one thing that I still haven't fully cleaned. I haven't shown it yet because I'm a bit embarrassed, but for some reason, the front dust filter from this case is having trouble getting clean. I'm gonna actually show you right now. So you can probably see on camera, there is a bit of like a brown dusty film. You can see like they're shaped like circles where the fans were behind this. And I have blasted this with water to the point where I feel like I'm about to break the thin mesh. I have manually scrubbed it with isopropyl alcohol, brushes, toothbrushes. I don't want to go again any more, like, I don't want to be more aggressive with it because I feel like I'm going to break this. But for some reason, the stain's still there. Like the dust rings are still present, and that's really bothering me. So that I'm probably, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna soak it in like soapy water and just let it sit overnight. That's the one thing that I still haven't fully tackled. But everything else here is very clean, and I'm excited to throw it all back into this case just for, you know, like nostalgia's sake. And then we'll take it all back out of here and upgrade the viewer's case to something a little more modern from Be Quiet. We'll first get this case laid down flat, nice and easy on the platform, integrated rear I/O shield, and you probably saw I already installed his two NVMEs. Take care of some basic wiring next, things like front panel, USB 3 and more. Let's not forget about his 3.5-inch hard disk drive, a couple of captive screws, and we're good to go. I'm gonna install the power supply next, only because it's gonna be difficult to connect things like 8-pin EPS once the AIO is installed up top. Yeah, there's no way we'd be able to connect this with the AIO already in here. Might as well get the 24 pin and others situated as well. Now I was wondering during deconstruction why the owner didn't have 2 screws toward the front of the radiator, so I haven't installed most of them. I've got just 4 of them holding it up right now. But there were 2 missing, and the reason why is actually because this radiator slopes downward toward the front of the case because it is being impeded by this little section here of the chassis that angles downward. You can see the front of that radiator there is not liking that. And so as a result, you can't actually use conventional screws to keep this radiator upright. So as a result, it's actually crooked. It slants downward toward the front, which kind of looks weird when you look at it this way. Now I see it. Like, I didn't see it before. It's very slight, but just another reason why I'm very happy that we are moving away from this case. Now we'll reconnect his Wi-Fi Bluetooth card along with his graphics card. This thing's so much better now compared to how it started. It's not even that old, mind you. There we are. Not a huge fan of how far these connectors are inside of the shroud. Makes things a bit difficult for wiring. Now let's get the cables tidied up and we'll fire up the system. Hey, would you look at that? Fired up, no problem. All the lights are spinning. There was one fan that I forgot to reconnect. That's why we check these things, the rear fan here. So that has been wired back up. Everything's spinning, everything is lit that should be lit, and we have our post. Now, the fans are very loud, you can probably tell, coming through the mic here. I'm going to calibrate his fan curves in the BIOS after we migrate everything over to the new case. Speaking of, this is the Be Quiet Shadow Base 800DX. And it doesn't even fit in the frame. Now, this is not as large of a case as the box makes it seem, but it is slightly larger than normal mid-tower. The viewer likes this kind of layout. Again, I checked with him beforehand, so I don't think I'm just like upgrading him and doing things against his will. This is always checked when I meet the owners the first time around if they're interested in an upgrade, and if so, if they'd be okay with the upgrade I have in mind. Firstly, airflow is definitely prioritized. You can see this very, very large front mesh grille. It comes with 3 PureWings 3 140mm fans. That's included in the price, which is really nice. I think I'm gonna move all 3 of these to the front. These 2 here are kind of in weird spots. I mean, it's nice to have an exhaust fan, but I'd rather move these to the front just for uniformity's sake. We'll have the 360mm AIO mounted up top. We even get things like sound damping foam, which of course is gonna keep the build nice and quiet. And if you're curious about footprint, you can see the 800DX is not much larger than what we've already been working with. The NZXT case, of course, has the 3.5-inch cage area that's kind of blocked off, and the 800DX does not. This is, again, it's much more modernized, still supports 3.5-inch drives, just not as many of them natively. But this is why the owner was okay with this upgrade, apart from the fact that it is just objectively all around a better chassis. It is not much larger, so it won't take up much more space on his desk. If you were interested in learning more about the Be Quiet Shadow Base 800DX, I'm gonna have a sponsor link in the description. You can verify hardware support and things like that there, although I think this chassis has pretty much everything covered. Now, I'm not gonna drag out the rebuild a second time. Let's go ahead and just do a quick jump cut straight from this to the, I mean, I'll take it, but that's not what I had in mind. Let's try this again. Would you look at that? So much room for activities in here, so much more modern looking. If he wants to upgrade his graphics card, 5080, 4090, something like that, he's got the extra length beyond just the width of the motherboard. He's got plenty of room for extra cooling, though that 360mm is sitting very comfortably there. Of course, the 3 140mm intakes, there's just so much room here for even things like custom cooling if he wants. You know, his graphics card originally looked to be a pretty normal size, not too large, but not, you know, super small, like single fan or anything. Now it looks fairly tiny in this chassis. So giving him that flexibility in the future for beefier hardware upgrades was of course part of the reason why we wanted to do this. The other reason is just because this case doesn't have any scratches on it, no blemishes, it is brand new, and like I said, it keeps up with the modern internals. This now just feels like one cohesive build. And a pretty manageable cabling, if I do say so myself. Gotta love that autofocus, or lack thereof. There we go. You see, I really didn't have to put much effort into this. We've got a 3.5-inch hard disk drive back here, so some SATA cables, etc., but it all cleaned up very nicely, and we have a little over an inch worth of clearance. Last things to do then, we of course need to make sure that it turns on, that it posts, and then like I said earlier, I'm gonna hop into the BIOS and tweak his fan curves a bit. We'll also re-enable DOCP and try to get things back to where they started. We removed the CMOS battery earlier in the cleaning process, and so that very likely reset his CMOS. In fact, I'm pretty confident. If it didn't, there's some kind of weird juju going on with this board. So let's power it on up front. All right, that is a great start. All the fans are spinning. Let me check his graphics card. Yep, those fans are spinning as well. No clipping or anything of the sort, which is always a relief, especially when you're really just having to get at those fan blades. Like, there's so much grime and dust and sometimes just goo on these blades, and you really want to be careful not to snap any of these off or bend them, because that will offset the balance of the fan and can cause severe issues down the line. Look at that though, we have booted straight into Windows without any issue at all. So I'm gonna handle the BIOS stuff off camera. I am about ready to wrap this one up because I am disgusting. I've changed clothes twice now. You've probably seen that in the video. Actually, this is my third set of clothes, and I'm just, yeah, I need to take a shower. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing this transformation play out, not only with the original case, but also with this upgraded Shadow-based 800DX from Be Quiet. Show them some love in the video description. Also down there is all of our cleaning gear, everything you see us use in this video, as well as others in the PCDC playlist. We've got some troubleshooting gear down there as well, our socials, etc. Let me know what you think about this transformation, and be sure to stick around for the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for cleaning with me.